Good evening, everyone, and thank you for your patience as our closed session ran a little over tonight. It was at that closed session that our meeting was called to order, so we may begin. But actually, before we move ahead, I'm going to turn it over to our board attorney, Mark Toscano, for confirmation about our agenda in closed session.
Thank you, Madam President. There's just one change. The agenda that was pre-printed before the board meeting, the board did not discuss HIB matters that was reflected on that printed agenda. So just to make sure the record's accurate, that was not discussed.
Mr. Toscano, I believe there was a case, MER L 500-21, that was listed incorrectly, and it should have been MID L 125-21.
Yes, thank you. That was the other one.
All right, thank you for those corrections. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to our superintendent, Dr. David Adderholt, for his comments.
Thank you, Ms. Case. And good evening to members of the public. As we come up on the conclusion of the school year with heading into the final stretch, again, a great big thanks of an appreciation to our faculty and staff for all the work that they've been doing. And there's a lot of public or a lot of events for our students over the next couple of weeks that I know will take more time, detail, and attention, and a lot of care and concern as we want to make sure that we're holding these programs safely as we're bringing parents and the community in for different programs, primarily at High School North, but occurring at all buildings. So a great big thanks and appreciation to the staff. Also, just want to specifically thank our nurses, our West Windsor and Plainsboro Health Departments, our Middlesex County Health Department, West Windsor Health Department, Olden Pharmacy. Yesterday, we were able to hold a vaccine clinic at Grover Middle School. Excuse me. There was over 700 students that were vaccinated yesterday, with family members accompanying them. So again, a tremendous effort from our Building and Grounds Department, our Grover Middle School administration and staff. Our nurses, we had 9 of our nurses supporting as vaccinators and working with the health departments. Again, Olden Pharmacy, one of our local residents, as the owner of Olden Pharmacy, so they came through with a huge support for us, and we really appreciate their outreach and willingness to work with us. And again, over 700 students, and we're looking forward to potentially run additional clinics as the need is brought forward. And so as other age bands open up, we now have a sort of a proven process that worked really, really well. So we expect that we'll do that again. I also want to just recognize one of our High School North students, Katie Liu. Katie was is a senior. She is a senior at High School North, and she is the 2021 Girls Golf State Champion. So a real congratulations to Katie for that, and a congratulations again to the High School North Girls Golf team, which were the sectional champions, and they and so sectional champions. So again, congratulations to the girls golf team. As we conclude this end of the year, there's ever-changing rules by the health department, by the governor in particular. We're learning a lot of things by tweet these days and press conference. What I will say is what hasn't changed is that the executive order for masking and social distancing on school grounds remains. So while we're hearing a lot of things about the elimination of masks in indoor or outdoor, exempt to that rule, exempt to that change is public schools, preschools, camps, and warehouses, interestingly. So schools will maintain mask rules for the remainder of this year. And just yesterday, and I believe it was a press briefer, Governor Murphy signaled that schools should anticipate having masks for the fall. And the primary reason, majority of the kids in New Jersey are not vaccinated, and we serve the students. So I just like us to remember that, you know, at the end of the day, I understand that many of the adults are moving towards vaccination, and that's awesome, but the students that we serve are in the process of vaccination, or they're not eligible. And if we just simply look at our primary call, our reason to be here, which is the students, we need to make sure that we keep them safe. So the price of admission for us all is a mask. And you know, we're all virtual right now. So we're not wearing masks, but when we come back in person, and that will happen before the year ends, we will be wearing masks unless we're speaking, and we're going to take precautions to take care of each other, and that's our responsibility to our kids and to one another. And so we'll continue that for the time being. And if the governor changes the rules on school grounds, then we'll have to revisit that as a school community and make some determinations. But that will not happen before the end of the school year based on the guidance we have to date. That includes as we step forward into some of these evening events, and we're asking families to please make sure that we're masked when we go to award ceremonies and plays and musicals, when we go to concerts and events. And we're trying to keep our students safe. And as we go to graduation, or I know salute will be virtual, but graduation will be in person. And as we think of the Cure Arena has now lifted and the governor lifted the indoor capacity limits, that doesn't mean that it's not a school function and that the school function won't require masking. So, we will be messaging a lot around this, but just wanted to make sure we point that out to our school community. And tonight, I would be remiss if I didn't recognize, just take a little personal discretion here to recognize two individuals on the agenda tonight. First, my colleague on the call. I want to recognize Mr. James Earl as the Assistant Superintendent for the district for the past 3 years. I'm proud to say James was appointed the Superintendent of Trenton Public Schools last evening. And we're tremendously proud of James and all of his accomplishments. We're tremendously appreciative of all his contributions to West Windsor-Plainsboro over the last 3 years. He's a tremendous leader. We're incredibly fortunate to have worked with him as a partner these past 3 years. And we know he's going to do tremendous work for the students in the community of Trenton. And I know myself and the Mercer County superintendents look forward to supporting him in his leadership journey moving forward. James, you've been a tremendous colleague, friend, mentor, and a sounding board during an amazing time period in education, and we wish you all the best as you move forward. Second individual that I'd like to recognize tonight, and congratulations, James. Second individual I just want to recognize tonight is an individual that's retiring from the education profession. And he's, again, just been another one of those individuals that has done tremendous work for the district. Bruce Almastrelli, as the president of the Wwpe. Bruce has been a tremendous partner for many years as we've sort of grown up in these positions as president and superintendent together. And we've gone through a lot of different negotiations and sidebar agreements and the pandemic, and always a tremendous working relationship together. Someone I have great admiration and respect for. And I would just say that what's special, one of the special things about Wwpe and one of the special sauce and secret ingredients is the relationship between the Board of Education, the administration, and our education associations and other support associations. But Bruce always keeps, and Debbie before him always keeps students at the heart of every conversation. And again, that is not something that happens everywhere. And that is something that's tremendously special about Wwpe. And Bruce, I wish you well in retirement and thank you for your support and your leadership and your guidance these past several years together. And Ms. Case, with that, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Adderhold. I'll get back to Bruce Almastrelli when we talk about retirements. At this point, it's our first opportunity for public comment. The board invites thoughts and reactions on agenda items and items of concern from members of our community who submitted written comments to the board secretary prior to the submission deadline for this meeting, and from those who signed up on the form to comment via video and/or audio that was open and available on the district website up until the start of this first opportunity for public comment. Any written comments that were submitted prior to the deadline for this meeting will be read aloud by the board attorney for 3 minutes in accordance with board policy 0167. Members of the public who did not submit written comments and who have signed up will be offered the opportunity to make their comments via video and/or audio. Members of the public will not be permitted to submit both written comments and make additional comments via video and/or audio. Each comment should be directed to the presiding officer, not individual members of the board, and must be made in accordance with the procedures and 3-minute time limit set forth in Board Policy 0167. If the comment extends beyond 3 minutes, speakers will be asked to conclude their comments and may be muted by the moderator. Once an individual has finished their comment or their 3 minutes has expired, their audio and video will be turned off by the moderator. This public comment period shall be limited to 60 minutes.
So, Kesh, we did not receive any written comments prior to the meeting. And there is there's nobody that signed up to speak themselves during this comment period, but we do have one written comment that was submitted.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
The comment comes from Lori Marabello, and it reads, in late February, 5th grade parents received notice that a COG AT test scores were available in Genesis. The email informed us that the primary purpose of the COG AT test is to ensure the instructional programs offered by the West Windsor-Plainsboro Regional School District meet the individual needs of students. However, it appears the only instruction or individual needs that are considered for middle school are those that involve math. Score high enough, and there is a math class for you, but no special consideration is given for students with top percentage verbal scores. Of course, our children are more than test scores. Interest and motivation are important factors too. But to paraphrase Renzanelli, there is no relationship between talent identification and language arts programming going on here. The needs of these students are dismissed with the workshop model meets all needs. Repeating that doesn't make it so. And when so much instructional time is spent conferencing with small groups and individual students, how much instruction are students actually getting? The workshop model is dependent on group work and peer feedback. So it is critical that high ability, interest, motivation students have classmates at their levels. There are still very few writing opportunities outlined in the curriculum documents, which I've spoken about before. My conversation and emails with the administration indicate the district is ill prepared to make the instructional adaptations in the content areas called for in the Strengthening Gifted and Talented Education Act signed by Governor Murphy last January. Nor does there seem to be an understanding of evidence-based practices such as cluster grouping, which is surprising since there is an accepted recommendation from the 2016 G&T program review. Perhaps it is time for a fresh look at how services can be delivered in the content areas other than math to meet the learning needs of identified students, and if the district is meeting the requirements of the new law. And 80 minutes of middle school language art instruction as recommended by the NJDOE would be an improvement.
Thank you, Mark, for reading the comment, and thank you, Lori, for your comment. And that will close the first opportunity for public comment. At this time, we're going to get our committee reports. We'll start with the Administration and Facilities Committee, and for that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Tony Flores.
Thank you. The committee met on May 18th. We began with an update on the virtual and hybrid school environments from Mr. Earl. Both high schools are currently planning celebrations to wrap up the school year. Team of district volunteers continues to support, sorry for a moment, to continue to support families receiving meal benefits during food distribution. Process continued throughout the summer with all Wwpe families. Update related to masks. You just heard the superintendent speak about masks from the state policies. Wwpe will continue to require masks for staff, students, and visitors during school and during indoor-outdoor events. All schools are currently in the planning stages for serving lunch for the 2021-2022 school year while observing social distancing guidelines. Additional volunteers and support staff might be needed. The district has also received federal COVID-19 grant relief funds to support learning acceleration, mental health, facilities management, and upgrades. Building and district administrators are currently planning to allocate funds for summer support and academic support during the school year. Then we discussed a number of policies and regulations. You see them on the agenda. The ones that are up for first reading fall basically into two categories. There's several that clean up the benefits language for non-affiliated groups of employees. This really doesn't change anything. It just cleans up language that over the years got away from us. And the remaining items are just to basically comply with the updates to state and federal laws. And again, they don't materially change anything that we're doing. We also discussed the use of school facilities and the potential need for additional staff, custodian, security, operations foremen to prepare the buildings and students for staff after an outside group uses the facilities. So with COVID, we have new cleaning requirements we expect in the next year. The committee will discuss further at the next ANF committee meeting on June 15th. We also have 4 policies for the second reading. They were distributed to the board members list. At our last meeting, we had the first reading. Again, these are just updates to comply with recent law changes. They don't materially change anything that we're doing now. Also on the agenda, there was a medical agreement for COVID-19 testing. The committee reviewed the Occupational Health Service Agreement to provide COVID-19 testing and related services for the district. The committee recommends the agreement for approval on tonight's agenda. We also reviewed 2 medical contracts for medical inspector and medical services director and recommend their approval at tonight's meeting. Concerning athletics, the spring athletics season is in its final stages with the teams competing for postseason opportunities. The district would also like to congratulate High School North senior Catherine Liu, who won the 2021 Girls Golf State Championship, as Dr. Adderhold mentioned. Athletics staff and student athletics have done a great job of implementing and following the health and safety protocols. Masks will continue to be required at indoor and outdoor athletic events for students, staff, and visitors. And the district expects to open athletics fully for the fall 2021 season. Concerning the special education review, the district public consulting group has completed data collection for the special education review. This past week, members of the administration and PCG began finalizing a timeline to charge an action planning committee. The committee also reviewed an amendment to the contract with additional action planning required, action planning included. PCG plans to deliver a draft report to the administration in May, and we recommend this contract amendment that's on tonight's agenda. Mr. Earl provided a general overview of all projects and the referendum. Highlights included a review of the High School South, Grover Middle School, and Community Middle School expansion projects. Work is ongoing. HVAC upgrades at North and Millstone River are making substantial progress. Security vestibules and toilet renovations have been completed and have all passed the final inspections. The Grover Middle School addition is on target for completion in June, with punch list items remaining. Phase 2 of High School South renovations and additions are progressing well, with the remaining utility and earthwork items being addressed. Demolition has been substantially completed in the library, child growth and development room, and the guidance child study team area. Concerning equity, the WWP staff are finishing up the Pan Asian American History Month activities. Equity team chairs and co-chairs continue to plan structures to provide support for the following areas: policy and procedure, curriculum and instruction, professional development, and programs. The equity team is also in the process of planning summer professional development for the staff. There's 2 job descriptions. Mr. Duncan, the labor relations attorney, provide an overview of updated language in current job descriptions. Visual media manager, director of special services. He also provided information related to 2 new job descriptions recommended by the administration: transition coordinator and job coach. And the committee recommends these job descriptions that are on the agenda tonight. Our next meeting is scheduled for June 15th. Any questions?
Okay, so it doesn't look like anybody has any questions. So at this time, I'll turn it over for the report coming out of the curriculum committee, and I will send it over to my colleague, Dana Krug.
Hello, good evening. The Curriculum Committee met on Tuesday, May 18th. Dr. Nathan presented a pilot for next school year for a proposed pilot for next school year for high school Algebra 2 and Algebra 2 honors. When students wish to drop from Advanced Algebra 2 honors into Advanced Algebra 2, sometimes called the CP class, the high school cannot always accommodate the change. When the high school can, the student's schedule changes and they may have to move several classes, which may include changing teachers. The administration would like to accommodate students by letting them stay in the honors class with the teacher differentiating materials for their learning. Next, the Curriculum Committee recommends the second year of a 5-year agreement with Education Services Commission of New Jersey to provide administration of non-public funds for non-public school students within the district in accordance with the State Board of Education. This may include non-public nursing services, non-public technology initiative program, non-public textbook services, non-public Title III and Title III immigrant funds administration, and non-public security aid program funds administration. The committee also recommends the approval of the consultants to provide services in relation to and funded by the 2020 to 2022 Star Talk Hindi Urdu summer program. Next, the committee recommends approval to dispose of obsolete instructional items in accordance with Regulation 7300.1 just under 6,000 books from Maurice Hawk Media Center, 174 books from High School South Media Center, a little over 5,000 books from the Dutch Neck Media Center, a little over 1,900 books from CMS Media Center, 450 books from Grover Media Center, 630 books from the High School North Media Center, and 3601 books from Millstone River Media Center. The committee recommends approval of several professional development opportunities. A calculus AB teacher to attend a calculus AB training in July at LaSalle University, virtually in July. Oh, I already said that in July, I said twice. At a cost of $630, and an AP Spanish literature teacher to attend the 2021 AP Spanish Literature and Culture Institute at Rice University, also virtually in July at a cost of $600. A staff member to attend a 1-week Teachers College Summer Reading Institute virtually in July at a cost of $850. One staff member to attend the Harvard Graduate School of Education Schooling for Critical Consciousness of Racism and Racial Injustice workshop virtually in June at a cost of $149. and 6 staff members to attend a 4-day Bureau of Education and Research National Trainer Co-Teaching That Works Institute, also virtually in July at a cost of $1,295 per person. The committee also recommends the approval of a donation of a piano from the Glassman family, who are former residents of West Windsor, for use by the district's music department. The committee also recommends approval of several technology agreements, including 1-year agreements with Adobe Education to provide Adobe Creative Cloud software licenses at a cost of $12,500, and one with Smart Learning Suite to provide Smart Learning Suite software licenses at a total of $8,910. And lastly, a 1-year agreement with CDWG for single wire support maintenance of district notification system, and which is communication between the district security system, door access, and alarms to outside police and fire at a cost of $13,192. The committee also recommends approval of an overnight field trip for the high school South swim team to Coral Springs, Florida, and over winter break, December 26th to January 1st. The cost of this trip is approximately $1,000 per student, paid for by the student. And our next meeting will be on Tuesday, June 15th.
Thank you, Dana. Does anybody have any questions about the curriculum committee report?
I do.
Louisa?
Pam, could you just explain a little bit more about the Algebra 2 honors pilot? I mean, are you experimenting with one class or all the classes? Like, is this going to turn into a thing where every class is basically teaching both levels? Or is it like, are we talking like 3 kids a year? I have no sense of scale for both the pilot and the long-term rollout if it's successful.
Sure. So in the middle schools, we've already been able to combine our honors and grade level classes. And it was a really good year to experiment with that and see the results. Students have the ability now to move without changing classes and without changing teachers. Our teachers are equipped to differentiate for both honors and CP grade level classes. So our goal with high school is very similar. These are both honors sections, one section in High School North, one section High School South, that are all honors, and students will have the ability based on a need, instead of changing teachers, instead of changing their entire schedule, to be able to move to CP. Our hope is to see how this goes. Our goal is to support all our students' success in their acquiring of mathematics. Our teachers are able to differentiate, and this only strengthens that ability as well. So we'll see how it goes. We pilot for a reason. So as far as long-term answers, we want to see how this year goes first.
So you're just piloting in one class at North and one class at South? And typically, how many kids drop from one to the other in a year? Are we talking 5 kids? Or are we talking 50 kids?
It is on the lower side, but I don't have those numbers right in front of me.
Okay, but we're not talking 50. We're talking a smaller number.
It's a small number.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions? All right, then I'll turn it over to Louisa. She will give us the report coming out of the Finance Committee. Lisa Waho, thank you.
Great. The Finance Committee met on May 18th. We reviewed the agenda items for tonight's board meeting from the Finance Committee. The professional service rates are mostly remaining the same, with only a few companies increasing their rates. The liability and workers' compensation insurance renewals are included for approval, as well as the acceptance of a safety grant for the purchase of automated external defibrillators. Most of the finance portion of the agenda is the semi-annual renewal of the procurement list of cooperative purchasing agreements and state contract vendors. Other items for the May 25th meeting include the transfer of capital project interest income and transportation items. In the personnel section of the May 25th board agenda will be the updated hourly rates for the 2021-22 school year. The committee also discussed some items that are expected to be included on the June 8th board meeting agenda, including the student accident insurance with no rate increase and food service agreement renewals. Mr. George Duthie updated the committee on referendum construction projects. I think Tony already covered that, so I won't do that again. Prices for construction materials have spiked in the last 6 to 9 months. As a result, the latest bids for the High School North Dance Studio and the Millstone River and Dutch Neck libraries came in over budget. The committee discussed a path forward to reduce the effects of these trends. Staff provided an update on the Energy Savings Improvement Program. Work is wrapping up with all of these projects. Controls work continues along with instruction of facility staff on the operation of the new systems. The electric and gas meters still need to be installed on the new section of High School South. These are required for the last energy rebate. Lighting in High School South and North still needs to be completed, but will be delayed due to the use of the rooms. Supply chain issues held up the delivery of this equipment originally. Installation of solar panels on the roof of High School South is nearing completion with connection to power service scheduled for early June. The installation of the final 2 arrays at North is delayed to allow the Referendum HVAC contractor to complete their work. Installation at the other schools is complete with final connections being made. Staff provided updates on cafeteria issues for next year, including the food service renewal and the possibility of no-cost lunch for all students. The challenge for next year will be serving lunch in accordance with pandemic guidelines. Additional staff will be needed to support the food service operation next year, including lunchroom aides. Each building and grade level will need a specific plan. Staff provided updates on the school response to the recent change in CDC guidance. I think Dave kind of updated us better on that. The district is also holding an on-site vaccination for clinics that are of age. Dave also talked about that. There will be in-person high school graduation ceremonies at the Cure Arena, and we are working to stream this event as well as the graduation videos that will be aired later in that evening. Staff shared that there are many administrative vacancies that need to be filled. The committee also discussed the return to in-person committee meetings. Staff presented the hourly rate chart for the 21-22 school year. The minimum hourly salary will jump from $12 to $13 per hour in January of 22. In addition, there will be an increase in the substitute teacher rate as our current rates are no longer competitive. The committee will next meet on Tuesday, June 15th.
Does anyone have any questions about the Finance Committee's report? Okay, so we'll move ahead now to the consent agenda. That's the portion of our meeting where we get to vote. We begin with administration items. I just wanted to point out that the first administration item that we have listed is to take action to move ahead in 2 meetings from now to have in-person meetings. So we're changing the location. We intend to have meetings starting in June, the second meeting in June, June 22nd. Our board meetings will be in person at Grover Middle School, where we'll be able to meet COVID requirements and spread out a little bit. And it is our intent to try and live stream those meetings as well. So can I please get a motion on the administration items 1 to 10, plus the one addendum, which is a special education settlement agreement? Tony and Robin, are there any questions or comments on the administration items? Thank you, Chris.
Okay, we'll start with Mr. Flores.
Yes.
Yeah, and then next is Ms. Ho,
Yes.
Ms. Krug,
Yes.
Ms. McEwen,
Yes.
Ms. Maliga.
Lloyd, you need to unmute.
Sorry, yes.
No problem. Mr. Whitfield,
Yes.
Ms. Zovich,
Yes.
Ms. Juliana,
Yes.
and Ms. Case.
Yes. Could I please get a motion on the curriculum and instruction items 1 to 6? Dana and Graylin, are there any questions or comments on the curriculum items? Thank you, Chris.
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Ho,
Yes.
Ms. Krug,
Yes.
Ms. McEwen,
Yes.
Ms. Maliga,
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield,
Yes.
Ms. Zovich,
Yes.
Mr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Juliana,
Yes.
and Ms. Case.
Yes. Can I please get a motion on finance items 1 to 29? Plus we have one addendum for tech purchase over the bid limit. Can I get a motion on that? Louisa and Loy. Are there any questions or comments on the finance items? Thanks, Chris.
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Krug,
Yes.
Ms. McEwen,
Yes.
Ms. Maliga,
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield,
Yes.
Ms. Zovich,
Yes.
Mr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Ho,
yes,
Ms. Juliana,
Yes.
and Ms. Case.
Yes. For our personnel items tonight, we have items 1 to 6, plus we have 5 addenda. First, addendum 1 is our general personnel items. Addendum 2 is a teacher leave of absence. Addendum 3 is a sidebar agreement with the WWPEA for club stipend. Addendum 4 is a sidebar agreement with the WWPEA for a science coordinator stipend. And addendum 5 is a sidebar agreement with the WWPEA for a 90-minute PD. So could I get a motion, please, on all of those addenda and items 1 through 6? Martin and Rachel, are there any questions or comments on our personnel items? Thanks, Chris.
Okay, we'll start with Ms. McEwen,
Yes.
Ms. Maliga,
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield,
Yes.
Ms. Zovich,
Yes.
Mr. Flores,
Yes.
Ms. Ho,
yes,
Ms. Krug,
Yes.
Ms. Juliana,
Yes.
and Ms. Case.
Yes. A couple of things about what we just voted on. First, on our personnel addendum, I saw that there was a change for Diane Kosar. We previously acknowledged her retirement for working 16 years in the district, and today we corrected that for 18 years. And I know why we added in those 2 extra years, because I remember she was an IA in one of my son's classes back at Dutchneck, Mrs. Grover's class. So we want to make sure that Mrs. Kosar gets all the credit she deserves. So congratulations, and we wish you well in retiring after 18 years with the district. And one of the things that we just voted on that Dr. Adderhold mentioned earlier this evening is voting on the retirement of Bruce Almastrelli. And so I just wanted to share a portion of the email that I sent to Bruce when I learned that he was on our personnel agenda. And in part, I just wanted to say that I told him that his WWP legacy is one of true commitment and passion to all the students in WWP and the entire teaching profession. In every role that you held, I told him, you have made a positive impact. And now Dave has mentioned his role as the president of the WWPEA, but as I told Bruce, as a board member, I have been grateful for the work that we did together, but I am most grateful that one of my sons was lucky enough to be Mr. Almastrelli's student. Fantastic teachers are remembered by their students forever. And I told him that my son continues to hold a special place in his heart for Mr. Almastrelli. And I have no doubt that hundreds of other kids will be forever grateful to have sat in his classroom. I know that everybody here knows him for his work with the association, but I needed to point out how very special he was in the classroom. So Bruce, I wish you all the best in your retirement. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you in person before you go on and do all great things in your retirement. So take care and be well. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from our May 11th meeting? Robin and Tony, are there any questions or comments about the minutes? All those in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed or abstentions? Do we have any board liaison reports tonight? Do we have any new business? That brings us to the second opportunity for public comment. The board invites thoughts and reactions on agenda items and items of concern from members of our community who submitted written comments to the board secretary prior to the submission deadline for this meeting, and from those who have signed up on the form to comment via video and/or audio that was open and available on the district website up until the start of this second opportunity for public comment. Any written comments that were submitted prior to the deadline for this meeting will be read aloud by the board attorney for 3 minutes in accordance with board policy 0167. Members of the public who did not submit written comments and who have signed up will be offered the opportunity to make their comments via video and/or audio. Members of the public will not be permitted to submit both written comments and make additional comments via video and/or audio. Each comment should be directed to the presiding officer, not individual members of the board, and must be made in accordance with the procedures and 3-minute time limit set forth in board policy 0167. If the comment extends beyond 3 minutes, speakers will be asked to conclude their comments and may be muted by the moderator. Once an individual has finished their comment or their 3 minutes has expired, their audio and video will be turned off by the moderator. This public comment period shall be limited to 15 minutes. Do we have anything tonight?
We have no written comments, but we do have one individual that would like to speak. And it is a gentleman we have spoken about a lot tonight.
Good evening. Hi, everybody. Madam President, it's been some time since I had the honor of addressing this board, although I've attended these convenient meetings since March. In fact, I was angry at the last meeting. I didn't know what to do with the rest of my evening because you ended so early. I'll try to speak quickly so Dr. Russo doesn't buzz me out. It means the world to me, Dr. Adderall and Mrs. Case, that you took time to
Did he freeze up?
He did.
That was quick.
A long goodbye.
Yeah.
Give him back his time.
He can reclaim his time.
Oh,
Okay,
there
I
you-
can reclaim his
Bruce, you're back, Bruce. We heard
time.
Meets the World and we lost you after that.
I'm sorry.
There we are.
It means the world to me, you know. But I was saying in September 30th, 1969, when we became an association, we made a covenant to the members of the West Windsor and the Plainsboro community. And that covenant is the very first article in our Constitution going back to 1969. And it states that we will endeavor to provide the best education possible for the children of the West Windsor-Plainsboro Regional School District. And that's been our goal for the past 52 years. When I joined the district, the Teachers Association was only 18 years old. It's hard to believe. And in that time with the administration, we've seen the crowding of the 80s, the building of the 90s, the financial stresses of the aughts, the growing maturity in the early teens, the growth in building again in the late teens, and then finally this transition to pandemic teaching. In my resignation to Dr. Adderall, I shared with him an experience I had in December of 1987. Walking down the stairs at the high school, there was no South yet. A colleague stopped me and said, "Why are you smiling all the time?" And without missing a beat, I said to that colleague, "I love what I do here." And it's never changed. And I think that's the commitment of every one of my colleagues in this district. You know, over the years, we have a shared covenant. Whether we've enthusiastically agreed or respectfully diverged, we all wanted to achieve that covenant. The covenant was the same, to bring the best education possible. And this past year really pushed that covenant to the limit. I think both parents you as board members, administrators, support staff, teachers, community members, we all stumbled into this new world of teaching and learning. And I haven't had a chance to speak at the board minutes meetings that much because you do such a fine job as it is. But I want to give a thanks to the parents on behalf of the teachers for their patience and commitment as we learned how to recommit ourselves to the covenant for the students to learn. I'm grateful for the trust that you as members of the board gave to the administration and to the support staff and to the teachers as we learned how to pandemic teach. Just sort of in conclusion, this providing the best has always been my interactions with the board. Many times I meet with presidents of the NJEA locals and they say to me, God, we wish we had Dave. Remember this later on when you go to your closed session. And I say, yeah, I know. We're lucky to have him. Your commitment, Dave, to this covenant is in everything you do. I also see that covenant commitment to everybody I've worked with in the central office, Patrick, Pam, James, Chris, Charity. And I would be remiss if I didn't say to the board, thank you for your commitment for the years, whether we were at the negotiations table, shaking hands and smiling at 2 a.m. or just chatting after a board meeting. You've had that commitment. You've been part of that covenant. And especially to the leadership of the board in my years in here, to Hamant, to Tony, to Michelle. I think if there's one thing I just want to say to you, Godspeed to you all as you keep this covenant and grow this wonderful educational community. Thank you for the time to speak with you tonight. God bless you.
And wow, Bruce, that was under 3 minutes. I realized that when I acknowledged Mr. Almastrelli's retirement, I failed to let the world know that he's a teacher of social studies and the Wwpe president, and he's retiring after 34 years with the district. Thank you so much for everything, Bruce. Can't wait to see you in person.
Thank you.
So that will close our second opportunity for public comment, right? We have no others?
Others, Madam President.
At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Adelholt to see if he has any other comments.
Thank you, Ms. Case. I wanted to provide Dr. Nathan an opportunity to respond to our comment in the first opportunity for public comment. We didn't take that moment at that time, and I wanted to just make sure I turned it back to her and gave her an opportunity to comment.
Sure, thank you. I know the parent who created the comment and I have had multiple conversations. Our ELA supervisor and the principal at CMS have all been able to chat as well. And I always offer those opportunities and would encourage more to keep building understanding of how we reach all of our students' needs. We do use the cognitive abilities tests, and for all students that take it, they get a profile, and that profile gives valuable information on the individual as far as where their strengths lie and the ways in which they learn best. That information is in our Genesis system, so that's accessible for all of our teachers and most importantly for our students to start to gain that knowledge. Our workshop model, we are very proud of. We run professional development for our staff, and we have built our classroom libraries so that we have a range of texts that reach all of our complexity levels. So we are constantly reaching all students, making sure that their advancement or intervention is ready at hand through that model. And we've been able to talk again in detail about that. And I would love to have further conversation to continue to build understanding of how we reach, in particular, her daughters and all our students' needs.
Dr. Adderall, do you have anything at this time?
We do not. Thank you, Ms. Case.
Thank you. Tonight, the board is going to meet in a separate Zoom link for a second closed executive session, and I need to read this resolution. Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act requires boards of education to meet in executive session under certain circumstances, and whereas the Open Public Meetings Act requires the board to adopt a resolution at a public meeting to go into private session, now therefore be it resolved by the West Windsor-Plainsboro Regional School District Board of Education that it is necessary to meet in executive session to discuss certain items involving personnel matters, the superintendent's evaluation. Be it further resolved that any discussion held by the board, which need not remain confidential, will be made public as soon as feasible. The minutes of the executive session will not be disclosed until the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Be it further resolved that the board will return to open session to conduct business at the conclusion of the executive session if necessary, and we will not be returning to open session. So with that, can I please get a motion to go into closed executive session? Loy and Graylin. All those in favor say aye.
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 Right. I'll meet you in that other link in a couple of minutes. I'll thank everyone for coming out tonight, and we'll see you next time virtually in June. Take care now.
Great evening.